All right, going live for our second live around trauma awareness for the week. I just got done cross country skiing, came inside to get warm. I'm really happy to be here with all of you. So let's just all take a few breaths as we're showing up here together. And that's one of my go-to ways to move through a transition. We're arriving into this new this moment today together. And for many of us, not everyone, but definitely for myself, transitioning is something that I really need to consciously mark, which is a part of trauma awareness. So we are just arriving together, transitioning right here and right now into this present moment. Hi, Amy. Hi, Liv. Welcome. So yeah, again, let's just take a few breaths together and let your breath be however it wants to be. Let your body breathe you. And if it feels comfortable to you, you can even allow your breath to come from your belly. Yeah, great. So I noticed what happened for myself just in slowing down for that moment together. My breath naturally took a deeper breath. I tend to have a natural, quite shallow breath with very long exhales. And just taking a conscious moment to have some natural breaths, there it was, just feeling safe enough to breathe a little bit better. So we can all give ourselves that. And something that's really been highlighted lately that I love reminding myself of and reminding others of is that when we invite each other to take breaths, we don't need to ask anyone to take any particular kind of breath if that's not the exercise. People can just take whatever breath their body wants to take. Sometimes when we jump into exercises and we start directing people's breath right away as we're coming into connection, it can actually create some activation in the system. So we want to let people come into contact with their breath as it is right away. And so often I'll just invite people to let's just take a few breaths and see what happens. All sorts of things can happen in those moments. And if you're here right now in this moment, feel free to just write what happened for you as you took those few breaths. This is an interactive experience today. And now that we're here, the topic for today, for this week, is trauma awareness. And today is really around embodiment. As many of you know, I am a trained somatic psychotherapist. I work as a coach, and the focus of my studies and my practice for years has been how do we come into the experience of our bodies in a way that feels safe enough to actually be present with what's here in our bodies. And uh, the piece of it that is so important to me, the way I love working in embodiment fields, I'm totally distracted by my puppy down here who is chewing a bone really loud. So if I sound like I'm tripping over my words, it's that I keep pushing her with my foot to get out of here, but she just really wants to be here. So hopefully it's not too loud. You can put a comment in there if it is really loud, but she's just hanging out. She loves this topic, helps her feel safer. So the reason why I focus on somatics and embodiment is because that's how I've done a lot of my own trauma healing. For years and years, I really lived from here. It felt safer for me to live from here. I was carrying a lot of painful emotions, which turned into painful physical sensations, chronic illness, all sorts of things. And so it felt really hard to be in my body. And so when we talk about moving ourselves and our clients towards embodiment, I just want to really name that it's a process. It's an ebb and a flow. It's a dance. It's not like we just slam ourselves into our bodies and call it good. It's like a lifetime uh, experience where we kind of touch in, we notice what's there. Can we embrace it? Can we be with it in a way that's compassionate and caring? Maybe it feels vulnerable, maybe it feels tender. Can we offer some care towards that? Can we, when we drop into experiences of pleasure and joy and ease, can we really be there for that too and welcome that? And lots of times, what happens when we are moving towards embodiment, it can feel like we're supposed to be on a really linear track towards um, dropping into our bodies, because right now, all of the research is showing body-based modalities are helping heal trauma. But there is a way we do that that is very much connected to what we talked about yesterday, where we do it little by little, this experience of titration. There's a great reason, it makes so much sense. We talked about that yesterday, where why so many of us would live in our heads, especially folks who've experienced trauma. And so when we start moving towards embodiment, it can be a little by little, slowly, so that we create safety over time, that it's okay to feel this. I can be here. And so as coaches and therapists, we have to give ourselves that space and permission for it to be a dance and an ebb and flow. Some days we're really in our bodies, connected to our sensations. Some days we're less so, and we can't make it a positive, negative, good, bad. We're human beings. There's so many elements that impact our ability to really be here fully in our sensations, in ourselves, in a way that's connected and caring and present. So, with that all said, the topic for today is how can we, as clinicians, as therapists, as coaches, and care providers, be more regulated in our nervous systems, be more connected to our bodies and the wisdom of our bodies as we're caring for others. Because one, it's actually more resourceful for us, it's more supportive, it prevents us from going to burnout too quickly. It helps us also tap into our own deepest wisdom really well. It also helps us tune into what's happening, might be happening for the client much more easily. And it also it kind of invites, through the experience of mirror neurons, the client to feel safe enough to go into their bodies, their sensations. So there's so many benefits to being able to do this. I've been thinking so much lately about how many of us, we go on retreat after retreat, we have these peak experiences where it we get these embodiment, what would we call it? It's just like a little clip, like you get a picture of what it could feel like to feel really connected in that way. And I've been thinking about writing a post about what it's been like to go on so many 10-day retreats or month-long retreats over the years. And then the thing that tends to happen for me after that is that I think my life is supposed to be like that. I'm supposed to be living in my body 100% of the time, that connected, that compassionate, that spacious, that present. And then I'm muscling myself, judging myself, trying to push myself into that experience over and over, knowing that it's possible. But when I can actually remember that that's part of the dance of embodiment, it's like that was a week, that was 10 days, that was a month where we got this delicious connection where my system got to learn that it's safe to feel this way. And then because of the rhythms and pulsations of life, we back out of that style of presence and we do presence in life in different ways and embodiment in life in different ways. So it's not always going to feel the same. In fact, if we give ourselves permission to connect with ourselves in all different ways, then we have a whole bunch of choice as to how we can do that over time. And we also give our clients that permission. I'm curious if anyone here has had really beautiful, big experiences of feeling connected to their sensations and their bodies, and then felt like they were supposed to always be living that way and directing people to always living that way too. Feel free to write that in the comments if that feels true for you. Yeah, I'm seeing oh yeah, thinking that my life is supposed to be like that all the time. I felt the same. So I'm just naming this as an activist statement so that we don't have to do that to ourselves and to each other, and that we can remember if we're more in our head, or if things don't feel as pleasurable, or it feels really hard to get centered and grounded. That's part of the dance. Over time, that dance, it's less rocky. We sort of like memorize the steps more and can find our way back sooner and for longer periods of time. And it's like we don't find our way back, we find new things to uncover and discover about how we can connect with ourselves. So one thing I'd love to do is just, here's one way where when I need a little more grounding, especially if I'm going to sit with a client, I just invite my attention. It's so funny. I hate that word invite. It drives me insane. It's one of my pet peeves. I love the act of inviting instead of commanding, but these days I hear the word invite as a command so much it drives me up the wall. So if it feels like it could be helpful for you in this moment, go ahead and put your feet on the floor. I just dropped my feet down to the floor. And I actually have my feet resting on a roller because I like to be in motion all the time. And so I tend to let my legs kind of move back and forth so my feet can feel the crevices of the roller. Just notice whatever your feet are resting on, if those feet can feel the texture beneath it. Just take a moment and you can press into your feet. You can move them around or you can keep them still. And if this practice doesn't feel like it would be supportive or interesting right now, you might just notice the rhythm of your breath. Notice what happens as we spend a minute here just focusing on the sensations of our feet. I also like to imagine that I can breathe all the way up from my feet, as though my feet could breathe. Kind of takes some imagination. Yeah, you can press, you can move, you can be still. If your feet are on carpet, just notice the fibers of the carpet. Maybe they're in socks or shoes. You can feel how they're held by your socks or shoes. And you might even be able to send your attention all the way down through the structures of the building into the earth. So you can feel your feet sensing all the way down into the support of the earth, and notice what happens. Notice if anything feels different or better as we do this. And that ask is a very trauma aware ask. When we just asked generally what we notice, folks with trauma tend to notice what's alarming or what's uncomfortable. And so when we can say what feels different, what feels better, when we can direct people to notice something that feels more easeful or even pleasant, maybe something that doesn't hurt, we're helping their brain train to let in some good. So right now, just notice your feet and notice if anything feels different or better. Yeah, good. And you can keep doing that if that feels helpful. You can let it go. Always feel free to write in the comments, what do you notice connecting with your feet? For me, what I noticed is my thoughts went slower. It's like my thoughts went all the way down to my feet and couldn't focus as much on all the things that were distracting me up here. I noticed I took some bigger breaths. That will happen quite often. With every single thing we do here, every embodiment practice, there is no one size fits all for anyone. We all have complex nervous systems. Most of us have complex histories. And so we can look at them all as experiments and we can play with them. We can go, what happens for me when I practice this embodiment practice? Do I get more activated? Is there more charge in my system? Do I get more energetic? Do I downregulate? Do I go into a collapse or start feeling sleepy or tired? Does it help me feel like I'm more present? Am I right here? Is my breath steady? Is my heartbeat steady? So we're just gathering information with every single embodiment practice that we do. So just notice, and specifically notice what feels different or better. If nothing, it might not be the practice for you. What tends to happen is we need to do these practices over and over again to gather the best amount of information because we're always changing. If it feels good to you, you can take your hands. I like to warm them up, especially if it's chilly out. And find somewhere on your body where your hands are being called to. Take a moment and really listen in. Is there a place in your body that would like some extra support from your hands? I notice my body is calling me, both my heart and my belly. So I'll put a hand on my heart, my hand on my belly. Yours could be anywhere. It could be on your face, on your legs, your heart, solar plexus, shoulder, nowhere. Let's just take a few breaths together. Notice what happens. Does it slow you down? Does it speed you up? Neither. Is there anything that feels supportive about this? And if there's anything that feels supportive about this, maybe for me it's the warmth. The warmth feels really nourishing to my system. So you can even imagine that it expands, that it can grow beyond where your hands are resting. You can just play with that and see what happens. Yeah, good. We'll take a few more breaths just like this. It doesn't take much. A little bit goes a long way. You can just notice what feels different or better. You're welcome to write that in the chat. And even for you, if it doesn't feel different or better, anything goes. If you hate it, if you love it, it's all welcome. Every part is welcome here. I will sit often with clients or in groups with a hand on a heart or a hand on my belly, helping my system to feel regulated, feel connected as we're in connection, me and whoever I'm working with. Yeah. So if you have any questions at all around regulation, embodiment, and what that means as a coach or therapist or a care provider, you're welcome to enter that in the chat. I can answer it live now or in the chat later. Yeah. So another practice I really enjoy, might take some time to connect with it, is figuring out where I want to listen from in my body. Now, it sounds like really foreign concept because most of us listen from our ears, right? Yes. Okay, that is true too. But also, I noticed if I imagine if somebody's speaking and I'm receiving their words, I can sit in my sacrum. I can get really cozy, feel supported in my sacrum. It's almost like their words come in through my ears and touches my heart, and it grounds in my sacrum. So I'm listening with my whole being. I'm listening to their words. Of course, I'm receiving their gestures. I'm hearing the emotions coming through. I'm just sensing all of it. And with that, I have more capacity to receive what they're sharing, which gives me more capacity to be present for longer and to not be burned out because there's more places that it filters through. I can be touched by it. I don't need to be taken out by it. I'm not bracing against what they're saying. I'm just letting it kind of filter down while I'm still connected to myself. That's a big part of listening from, for me, listening from my sacrum, or it might be from your belly or your heart or your little toe. It could be anywhere, maybe your womb or the energy of your womb. When I am listening from my body in this way, it helps me stay here too. And that is the number one most important thing to working with trauma and helping others feel resourced and regulated when they're in our presence, when activating material is here. So I'm not just listening from my head and computing and thinking and processing. I really truly am going, where can I listen from today? And for me, most of the time, it's my sacrum. I work with a lot of people, everyone says something different. And so, in this moment, just as you're receiving the words that I'm speaking, play with it. See if you can experiment with it a little bit. Where are you listening from right now? Is it from your ears and your head? Okay, those are part of your body too. That's fine. Do you want to play with listening from your shoulder blades? What happens when you sit back and listen from your spine? I'm receiving my words, gestures, tone, emotions, what's happening underneath it all. Maybe listening from your feet. Notice what happens for you inside as you play with this. The cool thing about experimenting with this is you don't have to respond. You simply just get to receive this information. You don't have to fix anything for me. You don't have to give me advice. You don't have to give me a reflection or tell me how it impacts you. You just get to listen to yourself right now. And I actually encourage people to listen inwards 80% and listen outwards 20%. And so that means we're here with our five senses. We're listening from a place in our body that feels good. We're maybe contacting a part of ourselves. We might be checking in with our breath. It's like a 80% job, regulating, staying connected, being in a caring relationship with ourselves. And then we can, give others 20% of our attention. I don't know what it actually works out to, but most of us tend to do this when we're working with clients. We don't want to miss anything. We want to make sure we're right there if we need to respond. We got to fix something we might need to perform. We've got to do this perfectly. And I am not in myself right now. I am over there trying to figure out what to do, how to be with you, what you need, all of that. A lot of people tend to do that, a lot of care providers. Or I used to do this a lot. I could barely sit up in my chair. It would be one of these, like sideways and leaning back. It's like, oh, it's so much. I don't want to catch what you have. It feels toxic. I'm going to protect everything. I'm not going to let anything you've got touch me. I'm kind of out here projecting on someone else too. When I can be in my center, when I can be aligned here and now, not leaning out of my experience, not leaning out of my experience, but right here in my center, supported by my breath, by my attention. I have so much space to respond from that place of wisdom, from spaciousness, from slowness. When I'm here with myself, I will always know the right thing to say. I mean, there's never a right thing, but I will always have a response from here that feels more in alignment than if I'm trying to perform, perfect, whatever, manage, control. or, be aversive, get away because it feels overwhelming. So I want to encourage us all to be right here, embodied in ourselves, tracking where we are in relationship to our clients and how we are connected to ourselves. Hi, Eleanor. Welcome. I'm so glad you settled into your feet. I don't know what it was that I said or when, but I'm so glad that's happening. We are, I can't believe how fast time flies. I always start out talking really fast because I know that 30 minutes is not much. I remember years ago when I was terrified to like write Dharma talks that were supposed to be 45 minutes, or I would spend like weeks on those. I'm just super celebrating right now. The more regulated I have become in my system, the more supported my body feels, the more I'm connected here. The less I have to plan. I didn't plan this. Maybe you can tell, but honestly, it feels so easy to be here with you. It feels like, oh, this is what I love. I'm excited to talk about this. I want to be here with you. It just pours out because I'm engaged and I can feel the aliveness, the inspiration, and I trust myself, and I trust that you can take care of yourself. It's a whole different game. So that's a piece of regulation. That's a piece of how I work with clients too. I feel much more enlivened and engaged as my system regulates. And I just want to name what I said at the beginning, which was around the ebbs and flow of embodiment. That this is not a linear path, that there is no end goal here. There is no place that is perfect embodiment. We come in and out of connection with all parts of ourselves all of the time. And so we have to give ourselves so much space to just play with what helps us stay centered, regulated, balanced, connected, and then to notice what takes us out of that and then keep doing more of the first. And then it changes, and then we do more of that. So it's a really fluid experience, and it doesn't have to be a one track thing. Like I said, like I still do that thing where I'm like, God, why can't I always be like I am after a month-long meditation retreat in silence? I've been holding on to that for years. And the reality is, I'm not on a month-long meditation retreat right now. I'm here. And so this is how I do embodiment in this moment with you. I'm here with you as I am. So good to be with you. I hope that something here has been of support or service. If if anything here has impacted you and you want to share it in the chat, I would be so grateful. Share it in the comments. Um, and if anything has perplexed you or you have questions or want more, there's so much more I want to give you. This is just like the tiniest bit of a taste. But I'm just happy to be here with you. And I am so excited that we're doing a Creating Safer Space live again soon. I know if I was ever going to do another one. I kind of did it in response to 2020 last year. I was like, I don't know. It's pre-recorded. It's go at your own pace. You got this. And then there have been so many requests for me doing it again for people who were in it. So many requests for people that wanted to join again. So I'm excited to get to be with you all, whether you're part of it already, you get to participate again. I need to figure out these details. Okay, if you sign up before, not this